the group of people that have already got a health and safety management system in place. They've got risk assessments, policies, procedures. They've got all that in place for the standard working before coronavirus hit. And they will just want to know, you know, some tips and information as to how to enhance that to incorporate COVID-19. And then there will be a camp of people who have not yet started that process, who are operating but have not yet got their risk assessments, their training, their policies, their procedures in place. It's on the to-do list. They will get there, but they haven't started yet. And I really want to address that camp of people as well, because if you are starting now, if you haven't got around to health and safety management yet, but this COVID-19 issue has prompted you to need to get it started, then I'll be able to give you a route to follow, some tools to use, and I'm going to point you throughout this presentation to various sources that will be useful for you. So I'm not showing you a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to talk to you throughout the process, and I'm going to show you areas and websites that will be useful to you, and give you information about people that will be able to help you. So I think to start with, I think it's worth reminding, because everybody's talking about return to work and getting back to work. I think it's important to remind people that to prioritise home working where you can. If you are an office-based worker and you are able to work from home, that's the route to go. The people that are returning to work are the people that cannot operate the business. The business cannot operate with those people not being present. So it'll be where there's machinery, equipment, you know, packing, distribution, all those things where it's just not possible for people to not be there. I mean, take for example the postal workers. You know, our postal workers are delivering our post every day. If they weren't turning up, we wouldn't get our post. So you know, that's the sort of essential service and businesses that need the people there present to actually operate. So before I actually get into the details that I want to deliver, because I've got so much that I want to tell you and impart to you today, that I'm going to go at a fairly brisk pace, because we've got a fairly short window to do this, and then I want to give you plenty of time to ask questions. So what I'm going to do first of all is just give you some information about where I come from. I'm going to share my screen, and throughout my presentation or my talk to you, I'm going to show you various websites that will help you. And so I'm just going to give that a go. So screen sharing. Right. So hopefully you can all see
That's good.
the screen.
That's good, Karen. Excellent. We're on.
Excellent. So we've got basically, I look after the Cambridgeshire Chamber of Commerce online health and safety training system. So if you have got questions or queries about health and safety training, and you come through, it's me or one of my team that you'll come through to. So just a quick look down so that you can see the sort of thing that we provide is this range of online health and safety training courses. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this screen on this section, because this section is going to show you a lot of the really relevant courses that might be of interest to you, like risk assessment, Legionella, and I'm going to touch on these things in a moment. So I'm going to generally leave that screen as the background, and then I'm going to pop over to show you other websites as I want to talk about them. So let's just go through and start the process. There's a process that I'm going to talk you through. There's consultation. I'm going to talk about team meetings, agreeing decisions and recording the actions that you want to take. I'm going to talk about sharing your risk assessment information with the people that you work with, monitoring and reviewing. So those are things that I want to cover in a very short space of time. So let's just get cracking. So the first things that you'd want to consider when you're thinking about return to work and what are the obstacles that you need to overcome, the most important thing has got to be social distancing. So the first thing that you need to be considering is about how you can create space between the people that need to be at work. So the home workers stay at home, but the people that need to go back, how can you create that distance? And I want you to just think back to things that are really familiar to you. For instance, you know, when you've been to the supermarket to go shopping to get your food, which we've all had to do, you'll see the fact that there is staggered entrance and exit. So you could stagger the arrival and departure times if you have a large workforce. If you only employ 4 people, it's fine and it's easy to keep that distance. But if you employ 50 people or 100 people, you're going to need to want to think about staggering arrival times and departure times so that you're not all trying to get through the doors at once. That's going to be a really important thing. And then think about the supermarket experience where they've got those markers on the floor which show you where the 2 metre distance is, and signs and information. And I want to point you to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to point you to various websites so that you can find where to access these products and this information, because I hope that will be helpful for you. So one of the providers that actually does provide the signs and floor stickers and that sort of thing relevant to social distancing is this company. Now, as it happens, this company, Excel Press, have chosen now the downtime to revamp their website, as have many businesses. This is a bit of a downtime, so people have chosen to do that. So you can't see a lot on there, but if you just contact them, the phone number's on there and the email address is there, they've got all of their signs and stickers and markers and things that you might need, so you can reach them for that sort of thing.
I've got a client called Amber Print who does the same as well. They've set it all up on
excellent.
So both of those things, so you can get all your stickers.
There's various sources of suppliers. Proximity screens is another thing. You know, people have been considering proximity screens. Let me just quickly show you what I mean. So having screens that separate the workers. Now this is showing desk-based workers, but a lot of desk-based workers are going to be home working. But you know, it might be that you've got people who are standing operating machinery or standing packing or something like that. Well, you can consider those screen separators for those, because it gives you basically that's to interrupt. Should a person you know, cough or sneeze or anything like that, that is to actually interrupt those droplets being able to get from the person who's sneezing or coughing and over to the next person. So if you've got that physical barrier, literally that's going to stop that travelling. So the other thing is thinking of meeting. I mean, home working, if you're going to be home working, there are going to be times, I mean, a lot of people are using these Zoom meetings and that's fine, but there's going to be times where you will need to meet, but try and keep your meetings for collaboration purposes, where you need to get together for an hour and keep the social distancing in place. You've got that time for interaction and engagement, but then when that's over, go back home. That's the thing. So, you know, just keep it as minimal as possible. PPE. Obviously, depending on what type of role that you do will depend on whether you need PPE at all, or what type of PPE you need. And thinking it in a very simplistic terms, if you were to work in the healthcare industry, so or care sector, you're going to need those you know, really robust respirators, you know, FFP3 respirators or FFP2. Because you need to not be breathing in the air that might be contaminated. So if you're dealing with somebody, you're working with somebody or supporting somebody, like a nurse who might be supporting somebody who is actually COVID positive, you need to stop that transmission. So that face mask is the only way to do it. And if you're going to use a face mask, you must have the face fit test before that. If you don't know much about face fit testing, I'm sure most people do because of social media, but you can always get in touch and ask. You know, if you're actually just dealing with people who are not suspected of having COVID or COVID symptoms, then something like the cloth, just the cloth face masks could be okay, because basically what they do is like the proximity screens, the paper masks, they just stop the transmission of fluids. You know, basically if I was to cough and it will be a bit goopy, rather than traveling through the air and splatting on somebody next to me, that would actually be physically stopped. There's a physical barrier, which is the paper mask. And it's the same the other way. If somebody next to you is going to cough or sneeze, if they're wearing a paper mask, it's just going to physically halt those droplets from going through the airways and over to me. Yeah, Okay, moving on. Cleaning is a really important thing to consider. It's really high up there in what you should be putting in place to manage a safe return to work. So let me just put up the website of a company that can provide those sorts of services for you. So like a deep clean, so before you all return to work, you can have them come in and do a thorough deep clean. And the thing that people forget or should consider from time to time is regular cleaning of equipment that we touch really frequently. Door handles and push panels on doors are going to be the real big thing, because the amount of time somebody's going to touch a door handle or push the pad on a door, you need to get those, you need to have a cleaning regime that cleans those very regularly. And other things that you need to think of from a cleaning point of view, which won't cross many people's minds, is about water management. So what we're concerned with here is if your premises has been closed for a couple of months, or say 3 months, by the time you get back, what you'll have had potentially is a water system that's holding your water. And there's when water is not circulated and flushed and run through the system, it has the potential to become stagnant. And what can happen there is that Legionella can breed. So you end up with Legionella in your water system. And then when you switch on the showers at work, you all come back to work and you've cycled in, because you're trying to sort of travel in a self-isolation way. So you've cycled in rather than getting a bus. And the first thing you're going to do is go and switch on your showers. Well, if the shower is pumping out water that contains Legionella bacteria, that's all going to become airborne. You're going to breathe it in, and that is a serious risk where you've had an empty property for quite some time. So if I show you a website where, in fact, what I meant to do, and I'm going to quickly do now, is I wanted to give you the contact details of the people that I'm referring here. And actually, yeah, I can't do it and share at the same time. So what I'll do is I'll do that afterwards. So if you have had an empty property, and property maintenance and property management is the thing that you need to do, or people go back, I would talk to a Legionella company and get your water tested, and to make sure it doesn't contain Legionella bacteria, just so that you can move forward. The thing is once you are Legionella free, you know you're Legionella free, you can then just run the showers minimum of once a week on a hot run for a few minutes, and that is enough to kill any bacteria that might be sort of hiding in the pipes, and that's enough. But you need to know you're Legionella free to start with. And the trouble is if the Legionella has taken hold, you can't just run the hot water for a couple of minutes and expect to kill it, because what happens is it becomes protected. The Legionella creates this like bio film, like a protection, like a little tent, and it is protected from hot water, so hot water won't flush it once it's there and taken a grip. So that's a company I would suggest talking to for that sort of service. Okay, going back to the cleaning regimes, laptops and keyboards, hot desking. Don't hot desk when you return to work, because hot desking means shared equipment, shared keyboards, shared mouses, shared drawers that you're all going to touch. Minimize sharing of anything, and have a regular routine for cleaning keyboards and mouses, anything that you would touch frequently. Just have a cleaning routine for those. You might not have ever done that before. There are services out there who provide those sorts of services, where they come in and they clean the computer workstation, the keyboard and the mouse, and they do that perhaps once a month. You may never have done that. I don't know many businesses that I've ever interacted with that have that service in place, but now is the time to do that, because you need to make sure that you're not transmitting that contamination. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk to you about is thermal monitoring access control. I know that a lot of the businesses that might be on this webinar are maybe small businesses, but if you are a business with significant volumes of people, or you deal with significant volumes of people, so you might be a school with corridors full of students, you might be a retail shopping centre, which will be expecting to receive hundreds and thousands of people maybe in walking up and down the corridors of the malls. What you can do is there are systems called thermal monitoring access control systems, and what that does is it uses like a security camera, but instead of just viewing people coming through, it has a temperature control on it, so that when it's viewing the people, it shows up the people who have actually got a high temperature. Obviously, it's one of the key indicators of COVID. So you can actually monitor that, and it'll ring an alarm when you've got somebody in your crowd of people that has a significantly higher temperature, and it'll allow you to identify who they are with face recognition, and then contact that person and perhaps make sure that they self-isolate, or just get them out of circulation of your mass of people. Yeah, I'm going to be putting all the contact details in the chat thing once I've stopped sharing the screen. Okay, the thing that I'm going to go back to now is talking to you about consistent pairing, we call it, and Emerson mentioned the word bubble before. That's one of the things that people are talking about. So consistent pairing means that if in your workplace you have groups of people that get involved in processing your tasks, instead of having 10 people getting involved in processing the task, what you need to do is try and just pair people. So it's just 2 people at a time dealing with that, and they're working in separate blocks. So you've got 2 people here, 2 people there, and they're all sort of focusing on their task and not interacting with the other people. Now, the thinking behind this is that if you're going to be having to work with somebody, so you're going to be interacting with them more than social distancing would like, then you've got, if one of you goes down with COVID, basically, you're not infecting 10 people, you're only infecting 2. I mean, it sounds a bit harsh, but that's actually what it boils down to. If you can keep people to either pairing or a small bubble of people, we call a bubble like you might be a group of 4 or something, but keep the groups small and have that bubble work so that they are not interacting with anybody else, so that if there is an issue, somebody goes down with coronavirus, then it is restricted to that bubble. And the thing is that even if somebody just comes up with symptoms and is not actually going to be infected with COVID, what you can do is they will need to self-isolate. You'll end up only self-isolating a pair, or only self-isolating a bubble, and not having to self-isolate perhaps the entire workforce. That's going to be the difference, and that's what we call that consistent pairing. Okay, one of the things that you will need to do as part of the process of going back to work is to have a COVID risk assessment. I'm just going to show you a screen where the HSE, the Health and Safety Executive, have provided this poster, which they are encouraging businesses to display in their workplace as a confirmation that they have taken steps to manage to make their place COVID-19 secure. And it gives confidence to people who are visiting the workplace or have to engage with the workplace. And it also gives confidence to the staff. If you're going to display this poster, you're going to need to be doing what it says on the poster. So that's something that you can access just from the HSE's website, and I'll put the link in the chat once I finish the presentation. If you're not familiar with the risk assessment process, going back to the Chamber's online health and safety training, there's a range of courses that I just want to point out to you which will be useful. So we've got risk assessment training as an online course. It will teach you the 5 steps to risk assessment. If you're going to be writing the COVID risk assessment, then I would suggest perhaps using the coronavirus pandemic planning course. That will give you a lot of information and a background about COVID that you can apply to your risk assessment. Something else that might be useful for people is health and safety for managers. That includes the risk assessment process and all the other factors that you need to consider, like control of contractors, etc. And there's other things in here like Legionella awareness. I spoke about Legionella earlier. If you want to understand a little bit about Legionella awareness before you get cracking and trying to get your head around it, that's about 20 minutes long. And there's a range of courses that might be useful for you to help you prepare your COVID-19 risk assessment. One of the things that is also available, and I think might be useful for you to use, is the coronavirus awareness course. Now, that is something that's at employee level. It's the basic principles of coronavirus awareness. And much as we're all sick to death of hearing about it, as an employer, I would say that you want to be able to demonstrate that you have provided the information, the training and instruction and information about how to work safely, about social distancing, so that you can evidence that you've told your workers how to work safely, you've assessed the risk, and that's just one method of doing it, because if you're going to put them through online training, then you've got that evidence that they've actually completed the training. Moving on to the last couple of things is transport and commuting. It's going to be very easy to just think about your risk when you're doing your COVID-19 risk assessment. It's going to be very easy to just think about the practical tasks that you undertake, but what you've got to do is try and think a bit more big picture. So think about how your people are going to travel to work. When you're doing health and safety risk assessments in general, you wouldn't normally consider how people travel to work because that's their business. You're normally considering just your work activities. But in this case, if you're going to say to people, right, return to work people, if they've all got to pile on a very crammed bus, that's actually not going to be a very safe process. So give that some consideration. Talk to your workforce. One of the things that's I tend to assume sort of goes without saying, but I think it's important to actually state, is that risk assessments shouldn't be written by one person sitting in a room on their computer and just doing it themselves. That's not how it should work. How it should work is in consultation. So have a group meeting, whether that's by phone calls, like a group phone call, whether it's via Zoom, but consult with your staff about what they think about the and what their fears are to do with working or coming back to work. So what are the challenges that they think they will face, because they are the people that do their job day to day, and they are the people that will know what issues will highlight. They'll be much more familiar with it than you with an overview, because you can't understand everybody's role perfectly. So consult with people, take their ideas, their suggestions, and then collate that when you're writing your risk assessment and writing how to manage people. Let's just go back. So yeah, think about transport and commuting. Ask people how they're planning to manage it. It's not going to be an easy one. And also you've got to consider about who are the people that are living at home with the people that are returning to your workplace. Is there anybody in their home which has COVID symptoms? So don't, when you're writing a risk assessment, think about just the workforce. Think about the big picture as well. If they're obviously, most people know that if somebody's got COVID symptoms in your household, you have to self-isolate as well. But just make sure that that's happening. Now, okay, so that I think is what I want to do now is stop sharing my screen and then give you the contact details of various people that can help, so that you can easily get hold of them, and then we'll probably go over to questions. Oh, I can see somebody's just put a comment in about their husband contracted Legionnaire's disease from the local cricket club showers. That is so people just aren't aware that that's how it can happen. And showers is so overlooked. If you're a small business that only employs 4 people, but you have a shower, you can get Legionnaires, just the same as anybody else. So thanks, Ruth, for giving that information. I do hope that he recovered. I do hope he did. So let's just give you some contact details. So we were talking about safety signs first of all. So I'm just going to put this in the chat to everybody. That's the company that I was referring you to. Obviously you can find other suppliers as well. The cleaning, these are the contact details. Is this going out to everybody, Everton? Can everybody see that? Okay.
Yeah, they're going on. Anyway. Yep, it's going on, Karen. Yeah, that's it. Carry on.
Okay, brilliant. So Legionella.
Brilliant, by the way. Very helpful. Thank you. So far, it's been brilliant as well.
Excellent. So that's Legionnaires. Don't overlook Legionnaires. I'm so glad Ruth made that point, because it's real and it happens. You just don't hear about it. And Legionella is a killer. It kills people. It is. You could consider it as bad as a coronavirus, or nearly as bad, because at the end of the day, you can become exceptionally ill and you can die from it. So don't underestimate Legionella. So there we go. Now, thermal monitoring, that's the camera thing that I told you about, where it monitors people's temperatures. It's incredible that they can actually do that. The person, and there, okay, you've got all the contact details there. Now, for health and safety consultancy, if you are starting from scratch, what I would suggest is get yourself on through those online training courses. So risk assessment, health and safety for managers, Legionella awareness, all those sorts of things. So get yourself some information first. And if you want help with writing procedures and policies and that sort of thing, Shepherd's Health and Safety are brilliant. Now, don't think with your COVID risk assessment that you can just say to somebody, produce that for me, write a check, and have no part in it. You will be heavily involved in the consultation. It's absolutely essential that you're aware of that. And then the last person that I wanted to refer, which I didn't show the website, I'm going to quickly pop that up in a second, is a very high level consultancy on crisis management, and this is actually the author of our coronavirus awareness pandemic planning course. And so if you're looking for a very high level intervention with helping you to manage your return to work, helping you to manage a crisis situation, that is Roger Kember that you should be speaking to. It's not Roger Kember you should go to if you want help writing your return to work risk assessment. That would be Shepherd's Health and Safety, but for a very high level overview. In fact, so you've got the web address there, you can look that up. I'll quickly do a screen share and show you. It won't be a second, and then we can go over to questions. So there we go, crisis risk management, there you go. So that's the website that you should be looking at, and Shepherd's Health and Safety, that's the other one, but you've got those in the thing. Okay, so I've just stopped sharing, so going back to my screen. Okay, so is that okay, Emerson? Do you want to go to questions now?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, there's probably brought loads of ideas to people's heads about how we're going to get back to work, how we're going to work in these